It's the second time in the space of a month that Channels Television is visiting the Ijegun area of Lagos State. The first was to air a story on the rescue of 19 pregnant teenagers and 2 newborns. This time, an illegal healing center in the Isheri-Osun part of Ijegun is the focus, where police evacuated victims allegedly suffering from neurological disorders.
Mama, keep quiet.
Further investigation reveals that 6 out of those initially rescued are inmates of the center, while others are church members. Like others in this center, 29-year-old Adewale Adetono is still in chains. He alleges that he was forcefully committed to the center by his mother after his sudden return from Cairo, Egypt, where he was studying an engineering course, a claim his mother denies.
The only thing I'm trying to say is that since we are here, I think everything is already settled. Everybody, yeah, sure. Everybody will go his own separate way. I want to go home. Yes, I want to go home.
It was when he returned that he started behaving strangely. We have been to psychiatric hospitals before, but he always insists on going home.
For Mr. Sunday Ojo, the operator of the center, providing healing to people with mental illness and other disorders is his specialty. He explains that he uses water, oil, and prayers as his healing tools, which he alleges has worked for over 1,000 victims in the past 10 years.
When I know say that they can I go remove shame because for security, make them no run or make them wound order. That's why they put saying. When I know say they okay, some day go this a year, some day, but when I day okay, they know they get problem. I'm surprised you have become a police because I know say I don't do bad.
But restoration doesn't come that easy, as the victims are restrained for about 6 months when they are first brought in, like these inmates. Day and nights they sit up or lie down on this bench in a not too conducive environment, hoping to regain freedom from the chains, the filth, and someday their ailment. Some of the parents recount their experience in seeking solutions for their wards before eventually coming to the center.
I'm seeing a lot of results. I don't see anything wrong. I know what is good for him.
The man is just doing a honest work, but whatever that has transpired, at least the siege on him is just too much. And they should allow the man to operate. The parents, we came to the police station yesterday and we consented to the police that we brought those children. And it is our consent that our children should be here.
But police authorities in the Isheri-Osun division insist that the law must take its course, as no one is allowed under the law to have such a facility. All the victims, without exception, have been taken to safe centers from where they will be transported to government-approved health facilities to get requisite medical attention.
Well, that's what we're sinking our teeth into, that particular matter. You have a plethora of this sort of examples. I think the case started in Kaduna State, where one center was uncovered, and from there it would seem that now there's been 2 or 3 centers uncovered in Kaduna State. We have found a case in Katsina, we found a case in Ibadan, 1 or 2 cases in Lagos. We now have that particular case, if not more. So it would seem that we have instances of these healing centers or centers where parents take their children to in order to get them either healing or to get them corrected or to get them, I don't know, delivered. We have with us this morning somebody from NAPTIP. He is Mr. Abdurrahim Shaibu, who is Director, Legal and Prosecution with the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, that's NAPTIP. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you so much for having me. Okay.
What do you make of the centers? Some people have described them as torture centers. Some people, I mean, you heard some of the parents there who think that they're healing centers. You have them, it would seem, mostly faith-based, so to speak, institutions, in quotes, because those cannot be described as any, institution that people should take their children to. But they have, those parents seem to believe very firmly that their children will be redeemed or will be restored in those particular centers. How is NAPTIP viewing the emergence or the uncovering of the sort of centers that we've seen around the country?
Thank you so much. It's very appalling to discover that this kind of centers exist in Nigeria at this modern time. It is an unorthodox institution, unorganized and not regulated. And I just feel that this criminal gang, we call them criminal gang because they are doing it for financial purpose. They are trying to bridge a gap, that is actually has been existing in the country for a long time, providing psychiatric solution to people. In Nigeria, we know that the institutions that have or provide psychiatric services are so few in number, and whereas those who are affected are so many in number. So this criminal gang has come to occupy the space, since the proper institutions are not, cannot meet the needs. They are now taking advantage of these people. Honestly speaking, they can't find this, they can't give any succor. You can see even they themselves are looking for livelihood. So they now see opportunity to make money from these people that are desperate. Now we have to really involve the whole of society, because now you can see in the neighborhood and community, people are saying, oh, leave them, they are the one that agree or consented to taking their own people there. The point is that this is a nation that is regulated with law. So people cannot just come and create an institution, illegal institution, and start operating it, and people say, oh, leave them to operate. Because whatever happens there, Nigeria is concerned. We are all concerned because the life of every Nigerian matters. So you cannot just decide to just do whatever you like. Number one, he said he's been doing it for over a period of 10 years or more. The point is, what is his area of specialty? Is he a medical doctor? Is he a health officer? What is he? So he's just there, doing gambling, guesswork. If I give you water, I give you oil, I give you all that one, then tomorrow you'll be okay. So this is very improper. I'm
going to ask you to hold your thoughts. We'll continue this conversation when we come back from this break. Please stay with us.
Thank you.
As a society, we really should be bothered about the existence of such centers in our society today. We still have with us in the studio Mr. Abdurrahim Shaibu, who is Director Legal and Prosecution with NAPTIP. How is NAPTIP viewing the centers? Yes, we talked about the fact that they're existing illegally and they're not registered centers, they're not registered schools, they're not registered rehab centers. However, they exist. Some people will argue that this doesn't really fall under the purview of NAPTIP, or does it?
Yeah. Well, what we do in NAPTIP is to combat human trafficking. And what is trafficking? It has to do with the recruitment, the harboring, and the transfer of persons by means of deception, coercion, or force for the purpose of exploitation. What is going on now is exploitation. So we have a role to play. So that's where we are partnering with the law enforcement agencies, particularly the Nigerian police. We are already coordinating with them, with the Nigerian police, to see that we play a key role, particularly in terms of rehabilitating and counseling those children. Not only that one, then the mastermind or the operators of those institutions, we need to really question them, because they've set it up to make money.
To question them or to prosecute them?
Oh, question them, of course, also how to prosecute them, because right now we are coordinating with the police, because we need to really, we have to interrogate, so to say. That's what I mean by questioning. Interrogate them and see how we can prosecute them, because they are just taking advantage of these people. And you can see from the interview conducted by the Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State, he has said it all, that this place is neither a religious institution, neither is it a medical thing. The demand is just there to make money. You see, so criminals all over the world, particularly when it comes to issue of organized crime, occupy a space that appears empty. Right now, we are calling on all government agencies or bodies, particularly that provide health care, that a lot needs to be done in that area, because a lot of Nigerians have mental challenges or mental issues, and because they believe they are poor or they cannot afford the services, they go to all these quacks which they believe can offer those services. And the quacks were also happy because they say, oh, they have come to me. And this is a means opportunity for me to make my money. And they start making their money. And because it is permissive, particularly in the environmental community, everybody looked the other way. Now the federal government has said, no, all this institution must be closed down. And you can see, because those people have been made vulnerable. Whatever they have been told, they will do. Whatever. And now they are actually using religious sentiment, which is terrible. You can imagine that if you are told, oh, Allah have already asked you to do this, that is the worst kind of humiliation or exploitation. So we come in, we want to really see that this sector is organized, but then, because it's all over Nigeria now, it's not just Kaduna or your another state you mentioned. Honestly speaking, this thing is operating almost everywhere. So that's why we're also calling on Nigerians that have information to come out, to offer it to law enforcement agencies so that we can go there, see these places, close it down, and be able to arrest and prosecute those who are behind it.
Let's talk to my colleague. Let's go to Lagos now. I think he has other guests on standby. Ayo.
Yes, Malko, we have Dr. Dapo Adegbaju, who is a consultant psychiatrist and a public health practitioner. Once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
What do you make of all of these?
Well, it's just what happens in our society. It's a reflection of what happens in our society, whereby people, because of stigmatization, ignorance, and then a little bit of religious belief, still believe that mental illnesses are caused by spirits. And instead of trying to bring these people affected to the hospital, they want to go and cure them spiritually, as they say most times, because that's what they believe is causing the mental illness.
We'll get back to you, but let's very quickly go to Kaduna State, where we have the Honorable Commissioner for Human Services and Social Development in Kaduna State joining us via Skype, Hajia Hafsat Baba. Thanks very much for joining us, madam. You recently, of course, Kaduna State has been in the news for these so-called rehabilitation centers. You were quoted as saying that at some point that some of the inmates of a particular center in Rigasa, Igabi local government area of the state were chained for 8 years. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Some even higher than that, up to about 10 years. They were chained continuously, day in, day out.
Now, how could this happen for so many years while there is a government in place?
Well, as I keep saying, there are so many illegal things going on, like illegal mining, illegal bunkering, illegal all this. So these facilities actually operate illegally. And it is better late than never. So finding them actually has opened our eyes to everything. And then rescuing them also, we have heard so many stories. You see, what I also concerned about is that we're not listening to those people that have been chained. They also have a voice. They also want to talk to us. But it seems as if we're not listening to them. Rather, we're listening to the parents who say that it is their right, it is their duty, it is their money, that they have the right to bring their children to these facilities. But these facilities are operating illegally. And if they are going to operate without going to the government or registering or obtaining all the necessary particulars, I think it is also very wrong. You know how sometimes people just go and open up centers just like that. And you know how they want to also cut corners. So that is actually a concern. But the thing is that Kaduna State government will not just sit and just allow this thing to happen. And then we also have the right to close down these places and also rescue these children. As I'm speaking to you, some of them are also in psychiatric hospital getting attention and being supported by the government of Kaduna State.
Hopefully that with all the activities that you have described now, government is trying to stem that tide. But then for that to have continued, to have happened for so many years, 8 years, 10 years, as you said, could suggest to some people that, the people in those local government areas have lost confidence in government. If your government leaves office now, what's the assurance that this is not going to happen again? What are you doing to stem that tide and ensure that those rehab centers, so to speak, do not come up again when your government is no longer in office?
The government is ongoing. But you should also remember that we inherited this from the previous administration, but that is not also an excuse. since we have come on board and we're trying our very best to ensure that what we're doing is right, that is why we're also establishing all these rehabilitation centers. And I'm assuring you that by next week, one of these centers being owned by government is going to open to public. And then there's also another center that is going to be open in the first quarter of next year. And that is where also the government of Kaduna State also established an agency called Kaduna Substance Abuse Agency with a qualified psychiatric doctor to manage that agency. And we believe that the community has an important role to play, our traditional leaders, our religious leaders, and also I want you to understand that parenting is also very key, because parents have abandoned their responsibility. We also have to look at that area as well. And we'll ensure that we'll continue to engage, we'll continue to dialogue with all the stakeholders to ensure that this continue even after the expiration of this administration. We have already put the foundation, and I'm sure it is going to continue.
Kind of, is this foundation you talked about, does it include the communities? What kind of partnership are you fostering with the local communities so they can take ownership of these things and report such cases should they, show up again?
Yes, let me just give you an example of what happened yesterday. I'm sure you are aware of one of the ladies that was locked up by her family for over 2 years. And it was a good NGO supporting government that actually brought it to our notice, and we swung into action. As I'm speaking to you, the lady now is in a psychiatric hospital, also receiving attention and being supported by the government of Kaduna State. So we need everybody to come on board. We need the community, we need the non-governmental organization, and also government agencies. I've just heard NAPTIP also saying their own part. And when this happened, we also were working with NAPTIP at Hajj Camp. We're working with UNICEF. We're working with everybody. And as a result of what has happened, that is why we also have some private partners that have come to our aid now. They want to support us in ensuring that our own rehabilitation centers come on board and then are being supported. So we need the hands of everybody. And as I've said earlier, continued engagement, dialogue with the community, with people, with stakeholders, religious leaders, and traditional leaders is also very key. Everybody has a role to play. But I'm also emphasizing, parenting is very key. Parents have abandoned their responsibility. One of the facilities that we went to, we had a child of 6 years old. So for God's sake, how can a child of 6 years old be taken to such a rehabilitation center? What has he done? He's supposed to be in the comfort zone of his parents. He's supposed to have that love and that protection. And he was so mercilessly beaten. And when the father saw him, he was, actually crying. So I believe that parenting is very key and parenting is very important. So we also need to engage the parents as well.
All right, thank you. Dr. Adegbaju is still here with us. One of the things that the Human Rights Watch, mentioned was that we have a dearth of mental health workers. Could that also be a reason for all these?
Yeah, well, they are not far from the truth. There are dearth of professionals. I mean, everybody's, we all live in this country. We see the droves which mental health professionals are leaving the country. Let me even speak about psychiatrists. Many of them are leaving the country because they are not finding employment with the government.
All of these situations that we have on our hands.
Exactly. In fact, in the whole country, I doubt if we have more than 150 psychiatrists left in this country, in a country of 200 million.
How many psychiatric, homes do we have that take care of?
The federal government has 8 psychiatric hospitals, standalone hospitals, psychiatric, 8, scattered all over the country. There's one in Lagos, Abeokuta, Benin, Calabar, Enugu, Kaduna, Maiduguri, and Sokoto. Apart from this, there are other units, psychiatric units in all the teaching hospitals in the country. But they still need for expansion because even this 8 plus all the teaching hospitals cannot take care of the mental health of this country.
How serious is this issue?
It's a very serious issue because that is why you find out that mental issue is not something people usually pay attention to. We tend to pay more attention to physical illnesses. If somebody is diabetic now, everybody rushes. If somebody is hypertensive, everybody rushes. HIV, but mental illness tends to be swept under the carpet due to several reasons, due to misconceptions by the public, misconception by the level of knowledge of mental illness. You could hear the lady from Kaduna talking about a 6-year-old boy. There are some mental issues that can arise in his young child that needs to be addressed quickly. But if the people or the parents who is having such a child is not knowledgeable, what do? Because they are not knowledgeable, they want to seek help. That's why they find themselves in this kind of situations. Instead of taking the child to a hospital, that child might just be having something like that is called attention deficit hyperkinetic disorder. That makes the child hyperactive, will not be able to sit there in one place, and then, the parent might just interpret it as being, this child is being stubborn and is not ready to listen. Meanwhile, this child, all he needs is a sort of care with sort of some medication, and the child will calm down, be able to do things.
Now, so we have all of these cases, some 200-something, 300-something cases of people being taken to all these torture or rehabilitation centers, so to speak. Yeah. And many of them have been tied down, according to what you heard. Yeah. Some of them tied down for up to 8 to 10 years. What is the impact that this is likely to have on these souls, especially now that they have been rescued?
In fact, the impact is just not, I don't want to imagine it. They are scarred for life. How could you tie somebody down for 10 years? I'm even surprised that they have their limbs intact. Because if they're not careful, if they tie what they used to restrain them very much, it can compromise the blood supply to any of the limbs, which will lead to amputation of the limbs. And because so many things happen, those ones will not even get to the authorities. I mean, you tie down somebody for 10 years, stooling in the same place, feeding in the same place, is not really palatable to the eye.
Well, there are so many questions to ask on this matter, but let's quickly go back to Markwe in Abuja. Markwe?
Thank you, Aya. But just before we come back to Lagos, I'm wondering why it is that I don't know if there's an association of psychiatric doctors. Why have they been silent on this matter? Why haven't they used the emergence of these issues to talk more about mental health issues in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. There's an association of psychiatrists in Nigeria, and they've been doing their own bit to get this to the attention of the federal government of Nigeria. As I speak to you now, the existing mental health law we have in this country is still the one we inherited from the colonial masters. And the association has been trying its possible best to get a new bill signed into law. They tried it during the second Senate. Yeah, the one that expired in 2007, but it was thrown out. We've been trying to get the current National Assembly to buy into it because we need a new mental health bill, mental health law in this country to stem all this tide that we are seeing. And this, not only the Association of Psychiatrists alone, I mean, all professionals that is associated with mental illness is actually those that have come together to put this bill down. And we hope this current assembly will help in passing this bill to stem this tide.
Is this something that NAPTIP is going to pursue? I mean, that bill he's talked about, if that's what we need to ensure that mental health issues are brought to the fore. They are not physical health, but we know that it can affect anybody. I mean, the people are talking about increasing rates of depression amongst our youth. We're also seeing an increasing rate of suicide in the country. Is it something that NAPTIP is hoping to pursue so that people do not fall victim to centers like this?
Yes. Honestly speaking, we will support all forms of measures that can be put in place by the federal government, by the state government, and by the local government, and in any case, by the community. I attended a program just recently from what the doctor is saying, that actually the number of psychiatric experts in place in Nigeria are so few. And the only way they could do it is to start doing advocacy, because they could really because from what we had at the lecture, that 1 out of 4 Nigerians are at risk of mental health. And we seem to just sweep it apart as if it's a non-issue. So I think the government should declare a state of emergency on mental health issues. Because now if we want to calculate from the angle of law enforcement, honestly speaking, by that you clamp down after you have arrested and you've prosecuted, you've jailed, and nothing is still going on. It is still going to be a big issue. So that's why we require a whole of society approach to this issue. So NAPTIP will support any measure that is put in place by all experts. I believe it's not just the doctors alone now that should be concerned. All Nigerians should be concerned about these issues, so that all these illegal representation centers, can be closed down. Because, like we said, we are looking at the criminal aspect of this matter. That because the space is there for them to occupy, the criminals come in and occupy it and start taking advantage of all Nigerians, and say that they have all services to offer to cure when they themselves are also in need of cure. So we are really ready to support and back this. The police is doing a good job, and NAPTIP is already working with the police and with other law enforcement agencies. We believe this issue should be tackled headlong.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely look forward to, the prosecution part of it, because those who run centers like this, we believe need to be prosecuted. But we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you so much for
Abdurrahim Shaibu is Director, Legal and Prosecution with NAPTIP. Ayo.
Just before we say our goodbyes, let me quickly ask Hajia Hafsat Baba, Commissioner for Human Services and Social Development in Kaduna State. You heard Dr. Adibaju talk about the mental health bill, earlier. Is this something that the Kaduna State government is also considering?
Yes, I'm sure we'll also consider that, and then we'll support it, because it is very key and very important. And let me also add that sometimes these facilities also have people that have substance abuse, or people that are stubborn, and then people that also have mental illness altogether. So I believe that we need to look into that as well. We're happy that the psychiatric hospital in Kaduna State is giving us that support, and we are taking our people there. And I believe that parents should also, once they have children that have psychiatric problem, they should continue the medication, because we found out that some of them, after some time, when they see that the children have improved, they will just abandon, going back to the hospital. We hope that they will continue to go to the hospital, but I'm sure we are going to support that kind of bill in Kaduna State.
Thank you very much for being with us. Hafsat Baba, Commissioner for Human Services and Social Development in Kaduna State. We appreciate your time. Dr. Adibaju, so first of all, what is wrong with the mental health bill that we have currently?
Well, like I said, the one still in use was the one that was done in the colonial area.
Beside the fact that what is there?
There's some adjustment that needs to be done. Look, for example, now the first thing is that if you want to get somebody, if somebody is disturbing the peace of the society now, you can get the person to the hospital. You can only keep the person for 72 hours. Then after that, you have to go to the magistrate to go and apply for an extension, and it goes down the line. There are several processes you need to go. And then over time, because this thing is even not being used over time, many people in the court don't even know about it again. So you go there, you even try to explain to them now, because even maybe the magistrate have not even used it or heard about it before, the person too seems lost. So that's why we need a new bill.
What you just said about someone disturbing the peace just brings to mind the kind of things that are happening in the social media now. Do we have people in the social media who you think might be exhibiting some? How do you even know that someone has a mental health issue?
Well, it's possible. If you know the kind of personality the person is on social media, at least you need to know a little bit about the person. And then the person start going out of bounds. Or you start seeing somebody who is saying things out of the extraordinary.
Okay.
I mean, ascribing so many things to himself. He could do so many things. He could do this. He could do that. And then you look at this person. Is it really possible?
All right, then. Well, I want to thank you very much. Dr. Dapo Adibaju is a consultant, psychiatrist, and public health practitioner. Thank you so much for your time and perspectives.
Thank you for having me.
Just before we say our goodbyes, we have some of your own responses to the conversations we've had this morning. This one is from Clifford Agogoisi and says, rehabilitation. We call these centers names, but do we at the national and subnational levels have credible alternatives to deal with the current challenge before us?
Well, Belema is saying or asking both the rich and the poor, that's talking about kidnapping now, both the rich and the poor in the South, for example, Port Harcourt, get kidnapped. Talk more of the use of gun by thugs. My state, River State, has serious security issues. The indigents live in fear.
And this one, last one from Badamosi says, tackling kidnapping. Can the police government enlist all retired policemen and ex-servicemen as intelligence foot soldiers to source intelligence for the police? That's a good question, and I think it's something the police might themselves be able to look at. Well, that's the much we can take on the show this morning. Sunrise Daily, thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Thank you. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.